If you're a software developer and your dream is to move to Germany, then this video is for you. In this video, we're going to cover topics like, is the German job market dead? What profile are German tech companies looking for? What are the routes or paths that you can take? And where can you look for jobs in Germany? Hey, my name is Jen and I'm from Guatemala.
And mine is Yvonne and I'm German.
And together we're from simplegermany.com, where we create English content to empower internationals to settle into life in Germany more smoothly. Now to the big question, is the German job market dead?
Well, we've heard from many internationals who are struggling to find a job in Germany that the German job market is dead. Now, that is a very generalized statement. And of course, it stems from their own experience, which it is their own experience. However, we cannot say the job market in its entirety is dead. We can't, because we don't know the entire job market. However, we can speak for one aspect of it, and that is the tech industry or the tech area of companies.
Yes, especially when it comes to developers like software engineers, DevOps, QA, UX, data analyst, AI, and the software developers. Specifically in these cases, we know that it's a fact that Germany is looking for these skilled workers to the extent that they need them so much that they're actually opening the roles to internationals, which in the past hasn't been so strong, I think.
B, the German government already made immigration way easier for these professions.
Yes, exactly. And C, also they're creating attractive packages where actually relocation is part, or paying for relocation is part of the offer that they provide.
Sometimes, not always. Let's not say it's always part.
Yeah, that is true. But we've seen it more often than before,
yes.
For example. So to prove this, actually, to prove it to ourselves more, is the German job market dead or not, we decided to do an experiment. So we said, okay, how about if we create an Excel list where we put 100 companies that are hiring currently, they have open positions for the tech field. And we were surprised.
For English-speaking roles.
For English-speaking roles, yeah. And we were surprised how easy it was to put 100 companies. And we're like, oh my God, we could have kept on going.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I don't know, maybe 1,000 companies. I don't know, maybe that would have taken a little bit longer. But it wasn't super hard and we didn't really have to spend months looking for these 100 companies.
No, it was, let's say, accumulated maybe 6 hours each.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. By looking and actually reading and making sure that they offer English roles.
In-depth research, not just scamming through it.
Exactly. If you're curious about this list, you can download it. It's linked in the description box below. And all of this was to prove to ourselves, wow, the German job market, maybe in its entirety, might be suffering, but the tech market is definitely open and has a lot of open positions at the moment. And as you already mentioned, all these companies that we found, actually English is the main language of the job. That does not mean we're saying don't learn German and just move here with English and you'll be fine, because that's also BS. You definitely need to spend time and effort to learn the local language because there's a plethora of benefits. Do we have a video on that? Maybe we should make a video on that, but definitely it's gonna help you integrate better, navigate life here better, make friends and all these things. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Germany, right?
Yeah, definitely. And for certain companies, it also will help you find a job because even though the role is in English and you don't need German as a requirement, it's sometimes I would be pulling a number out of my head if I would give a percentage, but more than once or twice or 3 times have I read German is a plus.
Yes, definitely. We will go into that. Yeah, we'll go into that into the profile. Also, definitely, I would say for the first job in Germany, English might be totally sufficient, but we also heard from internationals if you want to grow into a more leadership, managerial roles, or higher roles like that, then German is even more of a plus because most likely you will be dealing with stakeholders and others who are German natives. So definitely speaking the language will, of course, benefit your career opportunities as well. Also, this is to point out that if you're looking for lead positions or manager positions, those are going to be harder to find because, again, a team has one lead, but multiple developers, right? So the higher you want to go up the chain and the less German you know, the harder it's going to be to find that job for sure.
Now, everything we've just mentioned, of course, also leads to a challenge because Germany or German companies are looking so desperately for techies, for skilled workers in that field, and they're opening the market, like we just said, for English-speaking professionals. That, of course, attracts a lot of people like you, internationals who would like to work in Germany. Hence, the competition is fierce. But it is always fierce, no matter what job market you look at. Except that here, of course, there's a lot of people applying to a narrow, very niche job market.
Yes, definitely. Also, there is something that we believe very strongly here at Simple Germany, Yvonne and I, and that is that everything has two sides of it, of course, a positive and a negative. If we want to find all the negative things of something and all the bad things, of course we will find them because it's super easy. I read once that our brain is actually wired to find all the bad things because that's maybe survival or something. But also the same is true that anything also has a positive side. Sometimes it might be a little bit harder to find that positive side, but it exists. And here in Simple Germany, we want to focus on the positive sides of finding a job, of all the success stories that we've received in our inbox, myself included as well. I consider myself a success story because I have successfully found 4 different company jobs in very vast industries, only speaking English and only with my skills. That does not mean that I don't speak German. I do, and I'm very proud of it. However, what I'm trying to say is that it's possible. And the decision of which side you want to focus on at the end of the day is yours. And that will, of course, affect your experience and your results. So that's why we're so successful, so positive thinking here on this channel when it comes to finding a job in Germany for techies.
And any other life aspect.
Yeah, that is true. So that out of the way, let's talk about what profiles tech companies are looking for.
Based on our research and other conversations with experts in the industry, the following profile is the baseline which you should have in order to be successful. And that is, in the tech field, a minimum of 2 to 3 years of experience. Again, we don't say juniors with, let's say, less than 2 years experience don't have a chance. We've stumbled a few job postings, but they're just so much less scarce. Next up, you need to be fluent in English. And when I say fluent, you need to be conversational. You need to be confident speaking English, and you need to be able to be understood. So why am I saying that so bluntly? Depending on where you're from, we of course all have accents, and accents are beautiful. And in another video, I remember that we said, what is an accent in a foreign language? It resembles courage, that you had the courage to move and actually take that step. However, your accent should still be clean so that people can understand you.
Yes, definitely. And also we've heard and read, like we already mentioned, that German is a plus. So if you have some German knowledge, it will definitely show the employer that you are willing also to learn the local language, will actually impress us Germans, I would say.
Yeah, and also we will be more willing to integrate and be more likely to stay longer.
Yes, definitely.
Next up is, of course, your tech skills, your hard skills in terms of the role that you're pursuing. Your coding, your data analysis, your design skills, whichever one it is. That opens the door, like in terms of, it opens the door, let's say, for an interview invitation. However, what is equally important, and really equally important, are your soft skills. Again, that is your personality. That is the way you articulate and speak. That is the way you think and problem solve. And in interviews, everyone that we've spoke to and interviewed, those are hiring managers, CTOs, in-house tech recruiters, they all agreed that in an interview, the soft skills are more important than the hard skills.
And how about the tech stack? I know there are surveys and studies out there that actually say this language is better than this language. However, to be honest, I have found that it highly depends on the company. For example, Shopify has a company or an office, as far as I knew back in the day, in Europe, and for them, they sometimes use Ruby on Rails. Who uses Ruby on Rails? Shopify. But no other one, or very little have I seen job postings with Ruby on Rails. We know a developer from Guatemala who actually applied for jobs from Guatemala, that's my home country, which is in Latin America, it's very far away, and they were able to nail a job in Germany because they had very specific skills with the Adobe CMS system, which in my life have I heard about. And of course, the more popular languages, of course, there's more jobs. And of course, the competition is higher. And those include things like JavaScript, Python, Java, C#, C++, depending on where you want to work at. So of course, the React, all these ones, of course, are in demand. But I would say the more specialized you are, even though job listings might be less, your chances might be higher. So again, it's kind of like this trade-off of, do you have a general skill and then everyone else has it and everyone can apply, or have you specialized in something and then do you find? Recently, also, Go has become a super popular one in terms of backend and stuff like that. So it highly depends on the company, and I would say on how new the company is. Because the newer the company, the more modern tech stack they might have. The older the company or the bigger the corporation, a little bit more legacy code and legacy programming languages as well. Now, here's the big challenge, as we have already mentioned before. If you have less than 2 or 3 years of experience, finding a job here will be tremendously harder. It's not impossible because we also know of people who have done it. However, it's harder. I can also even say from my example, and I was already living in Germany, mind you. So I moved to Germany in 2012 as a customer service representative, speaking both Spanish and English in my job. I had no experience developing. In 2015, I decided to change careers and learn how to code. So I joined an online bootcamp, which was a 6-month program that I joined online. I wouldn't recommend it. I think the bootcamp closed already because a lot of people ask me, what bootcamp did you join? But it's gone. it was 2015.
And there's so many new bootcamps out there.
There's so many new bootcamps out there. I also did a lot of online courses. I even had a friend from Guatemala give me the chance to code her website on WordPress, for example. And I had zero experience. And it was very, 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 very hard for me to find a job in Germany. And I did crazy things. I recorded videos that were targeted to the company, and I had all my HTML and CSS books in the background. I did all kinds of creative things, and sometimes I got no answer, and when I was lucky, I got a rejection. But then there was this one company that gave me a shot, and the shot was to be a trainee. And to be honest, the salary cut that I got from my customer service representative job, which I was earning at the time, I think 35,000 gross a year, to the trainee was like half of that. And if I would have been alone in Germany, no way would I have been able to survive alone in my salary. Luckily, we were together at that time. So Yvonne's salary subsidized the lack of my salary. And I was in this position for about a year. Then I got a junior position, and I was there for about a year. And around 2 years later, I got my first real, like I would say, developer job. And then my salary jump was higher than I had as my customer service representative. So I saw all of this like I had one step back to jump 2 steps forward. I'm saying all of this to give you context that if you have very little experience, it's going to be very hard to find a job here. And like I mentioned, I was already living here, I already had my documents in order, and still it was hard to find that one job, with that one shot, like Eminem says, right? So if you're in that position with very few years of experience, then we recommend actually to gain that experience at home, find a company there that you can grow as a developer for 1 or 2 years, or somewhere else. Doesn't have to be in your home
wherever
country.
You're currently living, pretty much.
Exactly, yeah. And then with those 2 to 3 years of experience under your belt, then apply to the German job market because, like we mentioned, competition's just fierce. And as a junior, also you have to think that the company needs to bet a lot of money and time into hiring someone. And if they have very little experience, they don't know what the ROI, return on investment, is, right? So it's a little bit risky in that sense. So that is also a little bit the challenge with very little work experience. Okay, now that we kind of gave all that context, so what are the paths? If you do meet that profile, what are the paths that you can take to move to Germany as a developer?
So there's ultimately 3 paths, out of which we recommend 2. And the first one is to pretty much the examples Jen just mentioned, is if you're already in the role and if you're from outside the EU and you're already in the role of an experienced techie, to start applying for jobs, to really have your strategy right, have your mindset right, and go for it and be confident. And we know so many people who have been hired from abroad. So it is totally possible. If you don't want to do that, or you find it too challenging, or whatever reason speaks against that, the second path would be to first apply for a job-seeking visa for Germany. The new Chancenkarte allows you to spend 1 year in Germany to look for a full-time job. We have a whole video going into detail on the Chancenkarte, which you can find in the description below, because it's out of the scope for this video. And the third approach is to kind of like create a best of both worlds situation, which is only possible for citizens of privileged countries, which you now see here on the screen. If you are from one of these countries, you can enter the EU and Germany, consequently, for 90 days and start looking for a job. And if you should succeed in those 90 days to get that job, you can then change your tourist visa, or it's not really visa, but your tourist entrance into a work permit. Now, attention, 90 days are, speaking from experience, not enough to find a job in Germany. The reason being is the hiring process in Germany is a lot slower. It typically, on average, takes 2 to 3 months to get hired. And 2 to 3 months, even if you hit the ground running, you will have so much psychological stress to find that job on your 90-day stint that you have. Some actually do that and then leave the EU again, wait another 90 days outside of the EU to come back for another 90 days. That is up to you. however your mind works and your stress level works. There's one country that has an exception to that, and that's Australia. They have a very special treaty with Germany where you can extend your 90 days by just leaving for a night, let's say to London, and then coming back and having another 90 days immediately. Again, this is immigration talk. Do the due diligence for your own country, what's possible or not. But what we just gave you in these 2 minutes is the experience we've gained over 4 years.
Yes. Now, where do you start to look for jobs in Germany? So here's a list of 5 amazing platforms, not meaning that they're the only ones, but 5 of our top favorite ones that we also have listed in our guide of Can I Find an English-Speaking Job in Germany, which we'll also link in the description below. And they are all providing companies or job roles that are in English. They'll have filters and stuff like that. One thing though is whenever you look at a job ad, you should really read the description and not just apply blindly because it's in English, because in the requirement, sometimes it's a bit tricky. Even though the description is in English, it does still say German fluency required. So definitely you should look out for that. But anyways, let's start with our 5 different job boards that we like. So the first one we recommend is Arbeit Now,
which is a portal that's actually created by an expat software developer here in Germany.
Yes, definitely.
So it's very unknown because it's not one of those big ones.
Yes, exactly.
Next one is a big one, classic, Stepstone, but they have a right to be mentioned.
Yes. The next one is Job Mesh, which also I think is relatively new and it's not so big. Another one is Honeypot, and that is specifically targeted to techies, developers, data analysts, and stuff like that. And professions similar to that. This one works a little bit different because you create your profile and then companies have access to your profile. And if the company is interested, then the company is the one that reaches out to you, not you applying for the company. We know, for example, from a Smoothler, who is the name that we call our community members for Smooth Settlers, that they successfully nailed a job as a data analyst using Honeypot.
Another one we can recommend is Wellfound, which focuses on tech and startup jobs. So away from the big corporations.
Yes, and again, there's the list that we put together of 100 companies, which you can also find in the description box below. And another thing that we didn't mention here, of course, because it's too much for this video, is that you need to tailor your application to the German standards, and to that you need to understand a little bit the German mentality when they approach hiring someone and how does that work here. For that, because we cannot provide all that information on YouTube, we created a condensed course where we distill all of our information that we have for the past 4 years. We also interviewed CTOs, hiring managers, other developers, tech recruiters, HR in Germany, who every day they're actively hiring techies, and they shared their struggles and what makes a profile stand out. And we put all of that together in our online course called Get Hired in Germany, which you can also find in the description box below, or click on the link here on the left. Until next time, choose! Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nah. Got a hole in your forehead.
Awesome.
Look at me. Yeah.
Yeah, makeup and hair. And a lot of companies are actually changing they're not changing, that's not true.